like Miami. Miami, 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 Miami. It feel like Miami.
Welcome to the Heat Beat Podcast. I'm your host, Giancarlo Navas, and with me today, we have the reality check master, Tiffany Meeks.
Hello.
How we doing, Tiff?
I'm good. How are you?
Exhausted. Today has been a doozy since like 8 a.m. We're gonna get into all of that. Joining us again this season, our homie, our friend, the great Rohan Nadkarni from SI. How are you, sir?
I'm great. How are you guys?
Good.
Head spinning. Listen, we have so much shit to get to today. Before we do any of that, as always, I would love to thank our Twitch audience here on twitch.tv/MIAHeapy. Thank you so much for your patronage. Thank you for coming by in the off season when in reality, I mean, listen, you could be going listening to other people talk about Kevin Durant and everything that's going on that are, but thank you for coming by always to hear us have fun and to give a Miami perspective. Thank you to our YouTube audience as well. You guys, shout you out all the time. Hit subscribe. Listen, I always say this. The algorithm is our number one enemy. If you hit like or subscribe, that helps us a lot. I feel like such a YouTuber saying that, but legit, it goes a long way, and I thank you guys so much for that. And, of course, our pod audience and the great folks at Blue Wire who have been just the fucking greatest. Kevin Jones, Ty, everybody, Sam, Miss Findiari, all our friends over there. Also, last thing, shop.miamiheatbeat.com. Do you have your MHB Pride merch? Do you? You should
Get it. It's sitting in my mailbox because I was traveling for a few days, by the way. So
let's go.
Join me. Make the
Let's
purchase.
go.
Thank you, Rohan. We're donating to 2 charities.
appreciate it.
We're donating to kids in Long Island, New York, near where Tiffany's from. That's near and dear to her heart. And, of course, the Pulse One Foundation here in Florida. So 100% of your dollars go to that. So those 2 organizations, 100% of your money goes to helping causes that are important, and especially during this time. So without further ado, we have a leak to talk about. Rohan, where do you want to start?
Can I tell you where I want to start?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Listen, I'm coming out of this podcast because, Johnny and I go way back, but let me just put it this way. I have beef with Heat Beat right now, all right?
What do we do?
And, I know that this is a different show. This is the adult show. I can't help but notice that Alf is ducking me. Most of the Hangover Time crew is ducking me. Tiff at least was brave enough to show up here. But, I had some words with Alf about one of the episodes that he put up after the Bucks series. And I said, let's hash it out in the show. I haven't gotten an invite back to that particular program.
Wow.
And,
we've been light on guests, too.
So,
wow, this is development.
I'm just waiting. I'm more than happy to talk to you guys, certainly, but I'm just waiting for some of the Hangover Time crew to
in my face.
Faces. Yeah, because we got.
I'm here.
There's a lot of beef going on with you and Hangover Time. I mean, with Greg Cody's son and now Alf.
Right. At least I'm here. I got
true.
you. I got
That's
you.
true.
You're gonna get that invite real soon. You're gonna get that.
I'm looking forward to it.
Tiff and Siobhan are brave. They veer outside of Hangover Time.
I'm like writing down quotes about shit I just said. That, that's fucking wrong.
Like you're taking notes and shit.
And I'm like, what am I doing? I'm taking this way too seriously. Yeah.
No, you should. Somebody needs to hold him accountable because I'm scared of him. I've always said I work for Alf. I don't, you know what I mean? Like people may think, they call me Boss Man 999 or Boss Man 99. That's not me. It's Alf. I am Alf's employee. This is all a ruse.
Alf is lucky I'm letting him stay in my city. All right. I might be in Los Angeles.
Coral Springs.
I might be in Los Angeles physically, but I still run the 954. That's my territory. It's my block. That's my corner. Alf's just renting. All right? That's all I gotta say.
Rohan runs Coral Springs.
Alf's lucky I'm letting him keep that 954 in his handle.
Oh,
listen. We're Alf. It's been called out. Settle this on Hangover Time.
Shots fired.
Shots 100% fired. Rohan, speaking of shots, Kevin Durant last night, absolutely stellar, completely. And we're going to talk Rohan's Chris Bosh interview. We're going to talk Rohan's Dwayne Wade interview. We just have to get through the last 24 hours of the NBA, which has, I mean, we're going to go bang, bang, bang. Rohan, what Kevin Durant did last night, best performance I've seen out of a player since what Jimmy Butler did in Game 5. And it's, I mean, to me, that was one of the greatest finals performances I've ever seen in my life. And Durant absolutely matched that and didn't look exhausted at the end like Jimmy. I mean, like, I can't get over that.
It was incredible to watch. And, man, I just really love the playoffs because it backs people into corners and it breeds greatness. That's really what it does. And I unabashedly love it. It's the most enjoyable time for me as a basketball fan. And the thing with Durant is he's, there's always like stupid conversations about superstars, right? And having said that, like almost every superstar has a bad playoff game on their resume. Kawhi has Game 7 last year in the bubble against the Nuggets. LeBron has a couple, certainly.
We remember.
I mean, Dwayne Wade has had, his own struggles. We can go up and down the list. Kobe's had games even. They're just every superstar has had that memorable bad game, right? Where you're like, what was going on with them this night, etc. Durant, I don't think has ever had that. I don't think he's ever been in a situation where he didn't deliver, which is why I understand when people were, I don't know who was calling it this. I really don't. Like sometimes like Twitter conversations like really just come out of nowhere. Like people are creating a fake person. I don't know who was calling this a legacy game for Durant. I really don't.
Probably Skip Bayless.
I kind of understand the idea of like, oh, it's been a long time since we've seen him had to be the lead guy, on a team with, he was on the Warriors obviously, and then now he does Harden. Yeah, but I don't think he needed as much as those guys. But even if he didn't, what he did, man, playing every minute, that's the stuff I love to see. It really is just inspiring to me because the sacrifices these people go through, especially this year, especially him coming off that Achilles injury
and being hurt this season.
And for sure. And what I love about those moments, even Harden, who catches a lot of shit, is like they care. What I love about those performances is you see how much they care, you see how much they want to win for their teammates, how important it is them to win, etc. And yeah, he entered one of those modes where you were like, how has anyone ever stopped him from scoring? Like, how has anyone ever played defense against him? What in the world can you do to stop a guy like this? And it was awesome to watch. It was awesome to watch.
It kind of I'm watching this game through as a perspective of a Heat fan, right? Somebody who covers the Heat, and I'm thinking, remembering Jimmy's performance in the final, because that's what I kept thinking of. I'm like, a dude who has nothing around him. I mean, Durant had nothing around him. Harden couldn't move, right? That hamstring is clearly not well. He could not move. The guys around him are not giving him too much, right? A lot of Bruce Brown and screening actions. And the dude played every minute because everybody knew that he could not leave the floor, just like Jimmy, right? Remember, guys, Jimmy could not leave the floor without it being a fucking catastrophe. And that's what it felt like. And it's like, man, like these kind of, I mean, yeah, maybe legacy performances thrown around too much, but it legit felt like a defining career moment for a guy that has so many. And it's just, man, it's fucking cool to see that. We saw history last night, and it's cool that you knew it was happening in real time. When he hit that 3 to put them up, I got out of my chair and I just started like pacing around the house. I was like, holy shit, this guy's amazing. Tiff, he's good, right. Man. Tiff, he's good.
No, he's great. He's great. I just think that like we like to throw around all these words like this is a career defining moment. This is this is that. He just went out there and played. That's what I enjoyed. He didn't try to do too much. He just he played his game. His game is, I'm going to put you in an awkward position on defense and see if you can stop me. See if you want to double me. Let me get in the post. Let me see what happens. He played his complete game. And the problem is his complete game was better than anybody else's game on the other team.
In the league.
And no one, in the league. But if you just look at it on the micro level, him versus the Bucks. Who was going to step up? And that's basically what he was asking with his play. Who's going to step up and meet me at the apex? Because this is where I am. Who's going to join me? And sadly, nobody joined him. So it was kind of as if he had like his own coming out party to the league. Like y'all must have forgot about me kind of thing.
Well, I think you bring up such a great point about how he played within himself and plays his game. What I really love about Durant is he doesn't get cute with anything. He just goes. He just goes, and he's obviously so confident in knowing how good he is and how unfair he is. And I think so many other times, you know, you watch, like, there are games where you're like, I wish Kawhi was asserting himself a little bit more right here. I even wish LeBron was asserting himself a little bit more right here. Whereas KD's like, yeah, I'm a scorer, and I know no one can stop me, and I'm going to do, like, go to this same spot every time and wait until you make an adjustment. And it's really incredible to watch. I think Durant, for better or worse, like, he doesn't, and Kawhi's like this a little bit too, like, they don't really play the narrative game as much as other guys do. And I like guys who play the narrative game, and it makes my job fun, right? Like, it's true. Like, you know, LeBron, for better or worse, you know, feeds into
He understands.
He feeds into the MJ debate. Like, he wants to be called the GOAT. Like, he puts things out there, and I know some people roll their eyes at it. Like, I think it's fun. I just think it's fun. Whereas, like, Durant, like Tiff mentioned, like, he just goes out and hoops and knows how good he is, and is just like it's like he's just waiting for someone to stop him. That's what it feels like sometimes. And like last night was a perfect example of that. Like, he just went and did, like you said, he played his game. It wasn't, I don't think we were even watching it and we're like, whoa, like, Kevin Durant's going to some crazy level, or like you mentioned, like, he wasn't like, obviously I'm sure he was fatigued, and I think there's a reason why Harden was handling the ball a little bit more at the end, but it didn't look like it was this.
It's scary.
Yeah, it's scary.
Because it was in so many ways. Once you started watching by the late third, you started to notice it was effortless.
Yeah, he makes it look easy.
And the lack of competent defense, you could see he was almost like a kid in a candy store.
Can Giannis get around a screen? Like, please? Can he navigate a Bruce Brown screen? I don't understand what's going on here. I mean, I've been not to like rehash Hangover Time last night, but like, goddamn, dude, you are the most special, gifted defensive player in the league, and like, really, like, you're having issues. I don't know. It's just it was the Bucks were frustrating on that.
I really go back and forth on the Giannis thing, because I completely understand that he's not the defensive player of the year because he's a lockdown perimeter guy, and he, you know, the secret to the Bucks defense. I mean, he had moments even in last night's game where they were trapping Durant, did try to get the ball out of Durant's hands a tiny bit, and Giannis was scrambling all over the floor, you know, denying a paint look. I wish I remembered the play, but there's, you know, one play where he meets someone in the paint and kind of saves a possession. At the same time, what do we want to see? We want to see LeBron guard the best guy. We want to see Jimmy Butler guard the best guy.
Yeah.
We want to see Kawhi guard the best guy. And you kind of want – I understand that people are like, it's going to put Brook Lopez in X position. It's going to do Y to the team defense, whatever.
That's an easy solution to that, Rohan.
Yeah. But you would just like to see – yeah, I know that Giannis tried it the first couple games, but – kind of like what Kawhi did against Doncic, right? Where he'd have stretches where he guarded Doncic earlier in that series, and then later he just was like, I got to take him, and we're not doing the soft switches anymore. You'd like to see Giannis at least try that and see if he can
they worked on it all year.
That. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. And you just
well, and
go ahead, Tiff. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, because I know, you know, we always hammer it home. It's like, this is what we want to see. There's also there's a part of me that also knows that behind the scenes, there's so many things that go into all these defensive schemes where it's like, yeah, you want to see Giannis on KD. But then there's also something that maybe one of those bench coaches saw from games 1, 2, what game was that?
5.
4? Yeah. So games 1, 2, and 3 that they saw where KD went mano a mano with Giannis, and it didn't work out. Mm-hmm. And let's be realistic. These are still humans, and we're dealing with egos. We're dealing with emotions and all these things. And not for nothing, the way that I see Giannis struggling with free throws, you can't tell me there wouldn't be an adverse effect on him if he's repeatedly getting cooked. That will affect him on the offensive end. And just the fact that KD basically put them on his back, brought them back, took the lead. And didn't we notice how all of a sudden Giannis got out of rhythm on offense? Because it's the threat of, oh my God, what just happened? He couldn't catch that perfect pass that Chris Middleton gave to him. Because you know what? Maybe there's the fear of going to the free throw line.
Chris got to shoot that.
Chris had to shoot
that.
He did, but you know what? He didn't
didn't.
shoot it.
Yeah.
So we have to be realistic and say
it
It wasn't an egregious pass, but I'm just
a bad play.
Yeah.
It was a good pass, and it makes sense.
It made sense to him.
Yeah.
So let's be realistic. Yeah, you want him to shoot it because he shoots it. But you know, okay, but he felt like Giannis had a better look. And
I mean,
honestly,
he had Giannis on, Jeff Green on the block. Like, that's a matchup you want.
Yep.
10 out of 10 times. I get it.
Yep.
It wasn't a bad play, and it's easy. It's very easy for us to hindsight when Giannis dropped a good pass.
Right.
But
how many things could go through his mind as that ball is coming to him?
Of course.
Catch it, turn, shoot. Oh, and it's a rushed play. And I'm literally wondering if there's a confidence part about it where they're not going to let him match up with KD.
I just think he's bad as a defender of screens, and I'm with you, Tiff, for a bit, but I also think it's just like they're so into what they do, and they're like, we like him as a help defender, and we like there was a play, and it was like making fun of it. It's like they're pushing the limits of drop defense. Durant's getting a screen at the logo and Brooks at the 3-point line, and I'm just like, what the hell are we doing? Like, right? So there's a lot going on. It gets me mad as a Heat fan because, the Bucks made it a point. Hey, where's Tyler? Where's Gogi? Where is none? Every time down the floor, right? And they were manipulating matchups all over the court. Forbes is flying around. They're doing a pin down. They're running all sorts of shit to get the matchups they want. And all of a sudden, the Nets have a wounded duck in James Harden who can't move. Right, that's Schmeeth and Smolnik in chat says, is decoy Harden better than healthy hero? Right, and they are posted.
Last night he was
post up fadeaway, right? And it's, I guess as a Heat fan, I just get. Bryn Forbes outscored Jimmy Butler in the series, so I'm like, really? Like, I don't know. Y'all lost to that? Like, for real? Like, goddamn! Like, it's frustrating, and it's. I don't know how much of that is. I don't even know, Rohan. I don't even know how to explain that. They don't. Against the Heat, they looked like a well-oiled machine that was prepared for everything. They knew exactly the matchups they wanted to attack. They knew exactly how the Heat switched. Because the Heat don't, switch everything. They switch a lot, but not everything. They knew exactly how to manipulate switches. They knew exactly how to get the matchups they wanted. They knew exactly how to get certain guys out of plays that they want. And against the Nets, it's like they're doing the worst possible option every time. I don't understand.
Okay, so I don't want to say that the Bucks made their whole season about beating the Heat. I don't think that's the case at all. I really don't. I really don't. But listen,
it was on the top 3 priorities, though. I think it was.
Listen, that was a highly talented, highly motivated Bucks team. I think facing a Heat team that had reached a mental and physical wall, and that just happens in the playoffs. Sometimes we saw it happen to the Big Three that last Spurs series. It just happens. Sometimes you just hit the wall, and that other team is so motivated and so focused in a way that you can't get yourself to be. And this series is a different animal. It's just a different animal, and it's testing them in different ways and challenging them mentally in different ways. I know this isn't even to plug this interview, and I know we will get to it, but just
we're going to get to
Chris Bosh about the mental aspect of a playoff series and the reservoirs you have to dig into mentally to stay focused, to want to keep doing the next possession, to want to keep going, is so difficult and so overlooked. Like, when we talk about fatigue, we only ever talk about it in a physical sense. We never talk about it in a mental sense. Mm-hmm. And I just think that the Nets are challenging them in different ways and making them think in different ways that it's not coming as naturally to them as it was against Miami, who I think they felt got away with one the year before, and they had to hear all the slander. They had to hear all of you guys for a year talking about it. And
You see those bozos on the Bucks social media account?
How many of you guys are blocked now? By the
Sick of them. I'm sick of them, bro. I'm blocked by Dan Gilbert. That's my proudest block. I feel like if you were a real Heat fan, like from 2010 to 2016, if you're not blocked by Dan Gilbert, I have questions. Unless you're professional like yourself, Rohan. I want to shift gears a little bit. No, go ahead.
Go
Tiff.
ahead, G.
No, I want to. We are doing. Yeah, Tiff, you have priority.
Okay.
You're the boss.
Okay. And no, I'm just going to get on this, just touch on this quickly, because then it begs the question, because if you're not going to put Giannis on KD, because sometimes you need to meet length with length, like you just have to, you know, like get cooked for 30. It's not 40. It's not 45. Like there has to be some point where the rubber meets the road. So so Rohan, if they're not gonna put Giannis on him for a significant amount of time in this next game, then what's the game plan?
That's a great point, Tiff, and I feel the same way, because just the way KD is built physically, you know, Tucker had a good game in Game 4, although I still think Durant got to his spots and just missed.
Yep.
And I think Tucker is the kind of guy you want him to wear on KD physically. Like PJ Tucker's guarding KD down low, not up high. Right. But that can only go so far against someone as talented as Durant. And then you have to measure Tucker just gave him nothing offensively last night and gave Harden a place to hide. So I think it's got to be Middleton or Giannis. Middleton, I think, can do a credible job just because he has more length, right? I think he's better at fighting over screens than Giannis is. But the real issue right now, it's crazy as it sounds, is they're really missing DiVincenzo. I mean, who knows if Bud would go to Giannis at the 5, but you know,
that's the answer. That's the answer.
It is the answer, but even just the slight difference between DiVincenzo and Connaughton defensively, and what DiVincenzo can do on that end of the floor, you know, because Connaughton's going to get targeted every time. Last night, you know, I think maybe they should have had Bryn Forbes in the game instead of Lopez, because it turned into a track meet, and at least try to get someone on there who can score, and Tucker's not doing it. You need to find a way to get Harden moving around, chasing somebody, etc. So I think it's, as crazy as it sounds, like defensively, it's almost like that you can only reach a certain point with KD. I thought offensively was actually where they needed to adjust even more on that end of the floor. Like we can talk about, you know, Giannis on him, etc. Like it's Kevin Durant, but I thought it was more egregious what they were doing on the offensive end last night.
I think Giannis at the 5 on offense is really where you get more bang for your buck, because on defense they've largely been fine. The Nets are kind of well below what and part of that is like they're injured and stuff. And Durant's just, I mean, what was Durant like 10 of 12 from uncontested shots yesterday? I mean that, and I think Tucker's a little too small to get a real contest up, but.
Of course, he did block KD once, which I could not believe it.
I still don't. That didn't happen. Fake.
Yeah. I love PJ Tucker. He's one of my favorite players, so that was exciting for me. But yeah, I agree. I think that offensively is probably where they need more help than defensively.
So I think that let's see. I don't think their season's over, but that was a gut punch of all gut punches. And Smith is asking, why'd you give Portis a DMP? I don't know how much Portis helps you, although maybe on offense he gives you a little more punch.
Yeah, Portis is gonna shoot.
Unintended.
Exactly.
All right.
He's gonna throw the offense off.
Bobby Portis is like, it's Bobby Portis.
It's always Bobby time.
He's looked off Giannis so many times. It's awesome. It's awesome.
We spent a lot of time on the Nets series, but we have so much to get to. I want to go bang a couple things before we get to the Heat stuff. CP3, I don't even, is he positive for COVID? I don't.
Cursed. I think a witch has placed a curse on
him. And the Clippers are so fucking cursed that should happen at the same time. What the hell? Yo, that's horrible.
Thank God he's vaccinated.
So that's confirmed. Hopefully. Like, cause I don't know. There's certain check marks say so, but
a couple of people have thrown it out there. I wish I knew the name of the Arizona reporter, who I think is a great local reporter.
I have it. Yeah.
This is weird, but Jalen Rose reported it.
Yeah.
And I think Jalen Rose would know. So I think he's vaccinated. It sounds like he's vaccinated. Someone said he got the Pfizer in February, and I think if you have that level of detail, it would be hard to mess that up.
John Gambadaro.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
I saw that too.
Hopefully the other series goes 7 and he's able to be ready to go by game 1, because that would be really, really unfortunate if he's somehow not able to go.
My man's cursed. It's horrible. Kawhi with an apparent ACL injury?
I feel like you don't throw out the word ACL.
Right, unless you know something.
Unless you know it's the one ACL injury everyone knows about. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why would you say that word unless it's... I think we're all thinking it and nobody wants to say it, and I'm certainly not going to be the person to say it, but you don't say the word ACL unless it's the one everyone's thinking of.
Who leaks that? Why would the organization want that out? I don't even know.
I don't think that. I mean, certainly I don't think it's anyone in the organization, but who knows how that gets out? Who knows?
Uncle Dennis?
Hey, that's why.
No, like I'm asking you as a reporter, like who benefits from that getting it like that so early? That's scary.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's why Shams is collecting 2 paychecks and I'm collecting 1. Okay, that's why at the Athletic at Stadium. Okay,
King.
good for him.
Alf is in chat asking why you're talking shit. By the way, Alf just
bro,
yeah.
Bro, listen, tell him if he wants to talk. He knows where to find me. We're not going to do it in the chat, all right?
Oh, look at that. Rohan.
Oh.
Shout out to Delusional05 for the 2 tier 1 subs. Love that and appreciate that. Yeah, Alf wants to unsubscribe. You can't, buddy. You're locked in. Sorry. Coming out your check if you unsubscribe. I mean, come on. We gotta support the people. Yeah, so I mean, the news, all the coach firings, and then the NBA wanted to give us some happy news, and they said Lonzo Ball is LaMelo. I'm sorry.
No.
I want Lonzo here, so I'm in my Lonzo bag. Okay, Rohan, I'm gonna give you the choice on what we're gonna go do next, and we're heat from now on. Want to go to your Dwayne story? Do you want to talk about your Chris Bosh interview, or do you want to talk about how Jimmy was wronged for All NBA second team?
I don't feel comfortable choosing, and I feel like you or Tiff should choose.
Okay, Tiff, where do you want to go? You know where I want to go.
I know where you want to go. I feel like we need to wrap it up with that.
Okay, we'll wrap it up.
That needs to be how. Yeah. So it's funny because I actually have a note here that I wrote down based on your Chris Bosh interview, and you were talking to.
Okay.
I got it right here.
Wow.
Hold on. Before you go, Open Court podcast. Rohan sat down with Chris Bosh for like 50 minutes. Went through all things Game 6, a lot of Heat career, a lot of not so much about the book, more about just him and kind of his mentality and a lot. And they really went through the game. It was like a Bill Simmons rewatchables, except a lot better because it had Chris Bosh and Rohan. So it was really good. It was fun to relive that. And Rohan, I have a bone to pick with you about where you watched the game, but other than that, yeah, it's great.
Oh, I have a reason why. Okay.
So Rohan watched the game from a Chili's, which is just
this
a Chili's in Coral Springs, which is probably one of the gates of hell.
No. Listen, this part is cut out of the podcast.
Oh, they censored you.
Yes, they sandbagged me. I was a Miami Herald intern that summer, and they asked me to go to Miami and talk to people going into the arena that night. And just do like a little man on the street stuff.
Did Chris Cody's father assign that to you, or?
I didn't meet Greg Cody until after Game 7 at the day of the parade. So I'm interviewing people headed into the game. I watched the game at the Chili's, not in Coral Springs, but at Bayside, across the street from the arena.
Even worse.
Yeah, exactly.
Not the Hooters. So you had a choice. You had a choice at that point. It's Hooters or Chili's, because that's all there really is at that Bayside.
And it was like a 3/4 full Chili's at Bayside, and it was.
That's sad. Are you serious? Game 6 of the finals? No way.
I know, dude. I know. And it was like I ate just a disgusting plate of food.
Your chicken tenders.
Yeah. Oh man.
Chris Bosh gave you
kids meals.
So yeah, I watched the game at a Chili's at Bayside. Shout out to Bayside. I used to go to Bayside, like whenever someone would visit my family, we'd always take them to Bayside.
That's such a turd.
And I'd always make my dad buy me a virgin pina colada. So shout out to Bayside. It has a special place in my heart. Yeah.
Yeah. No, listen, Miami staple. Okay, Tiff. What were your? I had a bone to pick with Rohan. I had to ask him because I was like, what the? I expected more from you.
I have.
You're a
good reason. I
foodie.
thought those-
You're a food. You are like
I know.
legitimately like someone's food opinions. I respect. Ron's a good cook. Ron posts on his Instagram these incredible meals. Sometimes I think that you're like food Instagram, and I was like, oh shit, that's Ron.
I appreciate that. Listen, so I was working. You know, sometimes you just gotta come up with something on the fly. But we also saw Sage Steele at Starbucks that night. So some
Okay.
more at the
Lore.
Bayside Starbucks. Yeah.
Yeah.
okay. Tiff,
What you got?
Okay. Next.
You had notes.
No, well, you had talked about the mental fatigue aspect, and we'd already touched on that, but I actually took a little note on that.
Oh.
But just like the humility that Bosh had when like you basically were like, oh, you were getting cooked by Duncan. And he just in the way that he went into it and he talked about it, and then he talked about, I can't remember if he said it was like a backdoor cut. It was some sort of cut that he made on him, and he was like, oh shit, what, like I wasn't ready for that.
I wasn't ready for how much he remembered, but go ahead.
No, but like talk about that a little bit, and like it takes a lot of humility to just say, no, he was kicking my ass out there.
I love Chris Bosh, and I think he's very secure in who he is and how his career played out. And I'm sure it's a little easier to look back on that now, knowing they won that game and won that series. But I mean, it's funny because I knew I wanted to bring that up because I was watching the game, and I remember Duncan had a big first half, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, man, like Tim Duncan is working these guys, and it's not even like Bosh was playing bad. He's playing one-on-one against one of the greatest power forwards of all time. And it's Tim freaking Duncan. Like, he knows what to do. He knows against any defense, etc. And Bosh's, like, memory of how good he was caught me off guard. Because I watched the game the night before. I didn't expect Chris to rewatch the game just for that podcast. But his memory of all the plays in the game was really cool. And Tiff, you hit the nail on the head. Like, his like humility, he's so grounded in his ability, like you said, to be self-deprecating, to admit that they were fallible, to admit that they weren't a perfect team, to admit that they went into that series not assuming they're going to win, like knowing it's going to be this crazy challenge. Really refreshing to hear, really cool to hear. And yeah, he remembered, like, I remember that play because Duncan, like, all of a sudden darts into the paint and gets a dunk, like, kind of on Bosh. And, you know, Chris is like, yeah, I remember, like, I'm doing this, like, Boris Diaw's here. And, you know, it's really cool. It was really cool how much he remembered about the game, the level of detail he's willing to discuss it at. And just me looking up some of the stats from that series, like the Heat's most used three-man lineup, obviously the big three, they played 199 minutes together.
-7.
Their net rating, -6.9. Crazy.
Not nice.
And not nice. Crazy watching that series and seeing how much LeBron is playing off the ball. I know that we always like to say, I brought this up on the podcast, that's the best version of LeBron. I really don't think it is. And just to see athletically,
on
yes.
defense, he was.
On defense, yes, and athletically, yes. But just think about the way he was hunting switches against Miami.
No, he's a genius.
In the finals.
He's a genius now.
It was just a totally different. And on the other hand, like the way Spo is using him, getting him moving off ball, is a testament to Spo and a testament to him getting LeBron to buy in, because he has not played that way for a minute since. The amount of work he's doing off ball, screening, cutting, being a decoy, etc. It really was like watching a game from a time machine because it's so different. And it was a lot of fun for me to talk to Chris Bosh about it, certainly.
One of my favorite things about like rewatching even plays or moments from those is like how they use 3-guard lineups, and that like really launched and like Erik and I really liked how you talked about Erik's changes, like his coaching philosophy. I think Erik has look, that was a high pick and roll movement team, right? They pounded high pick and roll, a lot of inverted sets, a lot of 3-guard lineups, a lot of guard screens, stuff that he's carried with him to now. Now, I mean, guard screens and inverted sets.
Well, we talked about it in a little bit in that podcast, just guard screens real quick. Chalmers guarding or screening for LeBron. They did it on the biggest play of the finals in Game 7 when Chalmers screens for LeBron. LeBron hits a shot that he calls his MJ moment that clinched Game 7 in the finals. That's because the Spurs didn't want to switch, so Kawhi goes under the screen and it gives LeBron enough time to pull up and hit that jump shot at the end of Game 7. Their best stuff that they were getting in this game, and Van Gundy's on top of it. I know like people shit on that broadcast because of like him and Mark Van Gundy and Mark Jackson's tangents, but Van Gundy calls
Prophetic.
out every but even to this day, like he calls out every strategic adjustment, like every substitution. He's on top of it. And yeah, like in this game, like LeBron screening for Chalmers screening for him, like that was their best offense in Game 6. And Bosh mentions it, like Chalmers was great, and he's right. I can't believe Rio never got back in the league. I don't know. I know he got hurt.
The injury, it was an Achilles, I think.
Tough. It's tough because watching that series, watching that game, the degree to which he belonged on the floor and was essential. It's not like he's just thriving off the big three. Like their best lineups were when Wade and Bosh were off the floor. And, so shout out to Mario.
Can
Chalmers,
I speak
man.
a little bit about that? Because that's like one
Please.
of my favorite elements, like basketball wise. And that's like really like how I started to fall in love with like the like intricacies of basketball. So like what they used to love to do was they used to park Shane in the left or right corner. And what they would do is have Bosh set a screen and have Ray or Chalmers come off of it to then screen from LeBron. And whoever the other one was, they'd run a horn set, but it's inverted. So they have two guards up top screening for LeBron. You have Bosh in the corner, and then you have Battier in the other corner. So all of a sudden you're playing in space, and you have these two guards, and you're just like, well, who's going to flare where? Or is one going to roll? Right, so now you have all this movement in your offense, and you have LeBron, who's a supercomputer, with now two guards coming up to the level of the screen. He has two bigs that you can't cheat off of, right? And even Bosh is a great off-ball mover as well. And it's just like, how do you and nobody did. I mean, really, that was one of the things. And unfortunately, that is Dwayne not being on the floor because, as you mentioned, I mean, Dwayne, Danny Green was cheating off. You could just help off Dwayne, but when they were clicking or when they would have a dive man and Birdman, so they would run stuff where Bird and Ray would come up to the level, right, and they both set a screen or they'd run some double drag or whatever, and all of a sudden you have a guy flaring, Birdman is one of the best, and it's like this android.
It would be so fun to watch Spo coach that team in today's NBA because it's like, maybe Dwayne is almost playing like Bam where he's doing handoffs at the elbow. And you have to respect him because he can hit that mid-range shot. Like he's basically playing a version of Bam for LeBron, or LeBron is for him, etc. Bosh is only ever going to be in the corner or above the break. He's never going to be hanging around.
They'd probably use him like Bam. I mean, they'd probably have him trigger a lot because he's a good passer. He's not a Bam level passer.
And the mid-range shot he had too, and that that allows Wade to be the only guy in the paint. So it really is crazy to watch that series now because. I wanted to talk about Spo with Bosh because this is a story I'm still chasing, and I hope to get to do it one day, hopefully before Spo becomes the coach of the Blazers.
No, you're banned. No, no.
Spo told me, like, he was like, I had to apologize to players. I had to go to Dwayne's house and apologize to him in 2015 because of how obsessed I had gotten with the final result. And I think that big three era, and I hinted at this with Bosh, like it mentally fried them in a way that it hasn't with any other team because they were so hated, because everyone wanted them to lose, because the attention was unlike any other team before. And I think by the end they were all sick of it. And I think Spo was under an insane amount of pressure. And I think it was like a experience that fundamentally changed him. And to see him remember how emotional he was after the
conference finals,
the turnaround season. I mean, remember the turnaround season? He had that press conference. He's just quiet.
Oh, I remember.
Like a minute. And then this year into the bubble, like breaking out into tears. I think that if not for the big three, like that experience, like I think actually weirdly really changed him, turned him into the coach he is now. Where he's so much about development and doing what's best for
the journey.
Guys on the floor. Yeah. And it's really cool. It's really cool. And, it's always interesting talking to players about what he was like then.
Rohan, nobody believed in him except for Dwayne, Udonis, and the front office.
Yeah.
Like nobody. Like everyone was firing him 4 games into that's crazy. It was literally 4 or 5 games into the season, and every television show was firing him. They're like, no, he can't handle it. It's 4 fucking games into the season.
Right.
He's he's to me like one of the most fascinating basketball figures that we know so little about, and that's because he certainly prefers it that way. But I think that the Heat are very lucky and fortunate to have him in the organization. So hopefully they're doing everything they can to keep him there.
Rohan, I want to loop you in on a conversation Jack Alfonso and I had on Locker Room the other day. Spo is the most valuable person in the organization right now. I mean, I argue Jimmy and Bam because players. I'll always go player over coaches, but I think Jack and I both agreed that Spo at this point is probably more valuable than Pat, and I don't know if Pat would admit that, and I don't know if Spo would admit that, but I think we're there.
I think you're right, and it's because Spo is, I think, a better conduit to players than Pat is at this point in their careers. That's not because people don't respect Pat, but I think Spo both commands the respect because of what he's done, but also has the more personal touch that I don't think Pat has, and that's just because Pat's from a different era, the different school, whatever. Right. That's a really astute observation. I think it's probably Bam and Spo are the top two right now. That's no knock on Jimmy, who I love. It's just
age.
Jimmy's in a different part of his career. That's literally it's just age. Yeah. Spo is. That's a thing. It's like why I get upset. This is why I got upset at Hangover Time, and everyone was obviously so upset with this year, and people calling the front office incompetent and all this stuff. I understand, like, everyone wants to see the team win. Everyone wants to see the team go for
David Ramil texted me upset at that.
And, the way they ended the season was bad. Like, I'm not trying to sugarcoat that. It's more so that it's like, you obviously are not going to win every year. And even the people who think the Heat go for it every year, that's not possible. Like, that's not possible from a front office perspective. Like, as much as I would love to have Kyle Lowry on the team, like, you can't actually trade Tyler Hero for Kyle Lowry. Like, it's not that simple. It's just never that simple. I know.
What?
I know that sounds crazy. It's not as simple as, like, who's the better player. It really isn't. That's not the job of NBA front offices. It's asset what management. I respect. Yeah, which sucks, but that is part
in that
of the
case
game,
it was
right?
asset management. Yeah.
Yes. But my point is that it's like, but they still make it a point to be competitive every year. And I think Spo is so much of that even if this team wasn't competing for championships, I mean, we've seen it, what he's done with rosters that are, I deep down, I will fully believe that he prefers coaching on those nights when there's only 8 guys available, or that 41-41 season. I'm confident deep down that's maybe the most satisfied he was in his career, because, like, I'm in a way, to me, like, that is what is satisfying about this game and about this process for people like him. It's like drawing the best out of every situation, and that doesn't necessarily mean you win every time, but yeah, I just think that he's a really special person in the organization, because he both understands the bottom line. Like, every time I've ever interviewed him for anything, and he's talking about player development, et cetera, and he's like, listen, I know I get judged on the final result. I know that this is a business that is about winning. Like, he both understands that, but is also able to, see the bigger picture about the game. And that to me is it's changed the way I think about the sport and cover the sport.
I feel really lucky to be able to cover a guy like he's just fascinating. Tiff, I mentioned Alf made fun of me because I don't remember if I mentioned this on Hangover Time or a pod or a Locker Room, but I was like, it's really fun to look at even something as simple as dribble handoff possessions per season, right, and how you see that when Bam walks in the door and Kelly walks in the door, that number skyrockets. And when they weren't here and it was a Deion Dwayne, right, it was a lot of high pick and roll, and how he just kind of blends. He juiced he got a top 7 offense last year when they had 2 dudes who could dribble.
Right.
Yeah.
That's crazy. It was motion and slips and cuts and handoffs.
I mean, he got things out of players we don't even hear about anymore. James Jones.
Yeah.
Like, when you look at it, like, how many coaches can
Tyler Johnson big contract because of Spo.
He makes people serviceable.
A lot of people Pat still paid for some of that.
But what the mark of a great coach is identifying what someone does good
Yeah.
and makes it better. You can shoot. We're going to figure out how to make you a shooter. Like that's literally the mark of a good coach.
Sometimes organizations and coaches and staffs will be like, okay, they'll get a guy like Duncan and say, well, how can we make you more well-rounded? Can you run pick and roll? Can you do this? And the Heat went from taking an A shooter and making him an A++ shooter. Listen,
Yeah.
that's how you make finals.
Well, and quietly, right. And quietly, he's becoming a well-rounded player.
How many dudes walk out
Like
the
that's
door?
the thing.
How many dudes walk out the door here and are better?
Yeah, rarely. They come here to get paid, and then.
Yeah.
Or even young guys that come in
Yeah.
here. Josh, Beasley, Justice. I mean, we can go on. Like, a lot of dudes leave here and aren't as good. Chalmers.
Can we talk about Spo to Portland, by the way?
Yeah, I mean, we talked a little bit. I mean, I
Well,
think
G said he's trading him.
I didn't
to
say
Portland.
I didn't say a trade. I thought Five Reasons reporting and what Christian Hernandez reported for us was pretty in sync that this is coming from Portland. This is Portland wanting the hottest person at the bar, not, I've been Portland before, and
I
sometimes
think there's a little.
Spo doesn't want to talk to me.
Well, there's smoke.
I think there's a tiny bit of fire under this smoke. I think there's a tiny bit of fire.
Is that a
under the smoke.
report or is that Rohan intuition?
I can't say I'm reporting. I definitely cannot.
Okay,
say I'm
so it's
reporting
intuition.
It's intuition. I texted one person
Informed
kind of jokingly
intuition?
about it, who kind of responded to me jokingly about it, but in a way that I was like, "Wait a second, I." It's interesting. I'm waiting for the national guys to pour gas on it. Like, this is not my arena. I'm not out here fighting for scoops or anything like that.
Let's get Ethan to
just
do it.
feel like-
Ethan,
Yeah.
put the wheels out.
I don't know. I think that there is. Listen, I'd be certainly very shocked if he left, but I don't think there's a 0% chance he leaves. If I had to guess, not to be dose and say could go either way. I just think that all I'm saying.
The
is,
Deuces
like,
had this first, by the way. But
can someone explain that bit to me?
it's not a bit.
They're not.
They have a podcast. They have the Deuces Podcast Network, and they have several podcasts. We've had a Crab on the show before. So Crab, Smut Peddler, and Dos Minutos. We've had both of them on. Dos came on Hammer Time. Crab came on a long time ago with Clay Ferraro.
So like they're actually like reporting shit. Like they have.
Yeah. Like they're
people?
doing stuff. So Crab, so Dos tweeted out. I'm trying to find the tweet. He had a Spo report.
Okay, I thought that was a joke because I can never tell with him what is a bit and what is not a bit.
He's always exhausted, so I get okay. So the Deuces can confirm that Spo is aware of the Portland job opening and could possibly be interested if he felt circumstances were right. Spo has had discussions about coaching in Portland at some point. If he leaves to take the job at any point, we had it first.
Okay, so I just assumed that he's like fucking around because he always says that at the end of every.
Why would you
single one of
think? Why would you think that he's fucking around?
Because he's always like, we had it first, and it just feels like a bit.
I mean, he just wants everyone to know that he had it first. I mean, listen. The Deuces is a small. You haven't heard them?
No, I don't listen to the Deuces. I didn't even know it was a podcast.
No, they're good.
I thought it was a joke that they had a podcast.
No, yeah, they're fun. It's a good listen. You should check it
know.
out.
I'm like familiar with the Dose, and he's like always tweeting about milk and shit. But like, I honestly thought he was joking.
What brand
about
of
having
milk?
A podcast. Okay. But anyway, I think that Dose may be onto something there because I've heard somewhat similar-ish things.
I don't know. I unless they offer him the president of basketball ops job or whatever with the coaching position, I think that I don't know if that gets it done, Rohan. I mean, I think and Jack and I talked about this on the pod /Soccer Room the other day. Like, he is a guy that has a voice in this organization that matters. Right, and that's why I always push back of, well, Pat gave Spo, like, Pat gave Spo nothing. Or I mean, Spo's in the decision, Spo's in the room. I think Le Batard has been very, very good about his reporting and kind of telling up, like, everybody has, like, Nick and Spo and Pat and Andy, they're doing this together, right? This is not a Pat decides for you type thing. I mean,
yeah, I've never gotten the vibe that Pat is like, this is what we're doing.
Fall in
Everyone
line.
get in line, yeah.
Spo has. I mean, that guy is probably after Pat, the most respected person in that organization. I'd imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, he's earned it. So I don't know. It'd be tough. I think that he knows that president of basketball ops job will be his one day. Like if he
So
wants
what's
it.
funny about that is I talked to an NBA GM once who's pretty good friends with Spo, and I floated that by him. I was like, yeah, I imagine. And he was like, I think Erik's too competitive to ever want that gig. And this was a few years ago, so like I'm sure circumstances have changed, and maybe that is something he wants to do now. But that is interesting to me because that's what really shocked me about Stevens taking the Boston job is he always struck me as one of those guys who's just wired competitively in a way that he couldn't be that removed. Because it's a promotion, but not really. It's just kind of a different arena. So for years I've just assumed that wasn't really what Spo wanted, especially because, like you said, he has a voice in Miami. It's not like they are shutting him out of those conversations. So I'm interested to see how this turns out. I'm interested to see what happens with Jimmy this summer as well. I do think that there's some balls in the air for the Heat right now for sure.
Tiff, where are you at with the Spo stuff? Because I haven't heard how you feel, and it's.
Well, let me just also say they can't afford to lose it.
Right. But I think that like I don't think he's going anywhere as of now. But like he's been with the Heat long enough to where he deserves the right to window shop. He deserves the right to look and see what other people are offering. Like
It's nice to know how much
yeah.
people value you.
yeah, and it's nice to know to go back and say, hey, these guys want me, just to let you know. So,
Would you be shocked if he leaves?
honestly,
I'd be like
No.
stunned. I'd be.
I don't think because the last year and a half has been so mentally, physically hard on every single person, not just athletes, but just every human on the face of the earth. I wouldn't be surprised at all.
I would be the most shocked that sports has left me. It would leave me stunned. I mean, I think Dwayne leaving shocked me, but there was more smoke. This would legitimately be like, I cannot believe that. And that would be like an organizational failure that I don't know how they recover from.
You know what? I think, sadly, they need him right now more than he needs them.
Yeah.
But let's be realistic. It's not
I don't know about that either.
I'm just saying. I'm
Fez
just saying.
tweeted-
I go ahead.
Fez just tweeted at Dose. Just heard Rohan taking credit for your story.
Everybody's coming for
Shout
you.
out to
Rohan.
I'm
Fez.
saying I didn't take credit. I just assumed it was a farce.
Shout out to Fez.
No, but I'm being honest. I think they need him right now more than he needs them. Listen, there's openings everywhere. He could say goodbye right now and leave. There's no one right now on that market that can walk in with the gravitas.
Pat's the only guy who can
Exactly.
replace Bo.
No one else can walk in as of tomorrow.
Do you know how
And-
fast everyone would walk out of that gym except Dwayne would be calling Jimmy like, get out.
Can you? Okay, I don't want Spo to leave, but if he did, and that means Pat Riley's like, fuck it, I'm coaching.
There's
for one
no
this
way.
year,"
Could you
that would be
imagine?
awesome. That would be awesome. That I would sign up for. I would sign up for Pat Riley being like, I'm trading Bam for Anthony Davis or doing some crazy shit.
For Dame.
And-
For Dame.
Yeah, for Dame. I'm just being like, no, trading Spo for Dame. And just being like, take this, Erik, and I'm coaching one last year, and like
One last
that
cutthroat
would be
move.
sick. That would be sick.
That'd be the
That
most
would be
Godfather gangster shit ever.
awesome. Let me say that I'm pro Pat Riley trading Spo in the event that it means he coaches one more season.
Yeah. Carteliana in chat says, G, read the tea leaves. Pat at the end of the season questioning Spo's use of Bam and looking for a big. I think that they have that. We said this at the time. I think that they have the kind of relationship and they all have the job security that they can. Tiff, I think it was you that said that's not the first time Spo has heard that.
Right.
He was
right.
not learning that Pat felt this way, and
Right.
I think the communication there is good, and that's legitimate
They
friendship.
also like all they talk about is how they value open communication. Like,
Right.
All like
That's
everything-
open.
Every story is like we want Jimmy Butler to get mad at people in practice. Like we want,
Not
we
too
want
mad, but
disagreement.
Not
Yeah,
too
but
much.
point being, like I don't think all of a sudden Spo's like, what? Like Pat had questions about what he was doing against the Spurs in the finals when, and that's because Pat, once again, like understands basketball through a different lens. So I think that that's pretty normal, but it's interesting.
So real quick, want to kind of put a bow on the Chris Bosh stuff. He is a guy like him talking about like, and we kind of veered off into Erik Spolestra talking. I mean, Spo is
that was my fault. That's my fault.
Rohan, I just kind of want to bring it together, and then I want to get into the Dwayne stuff a little bit before we go because we're really pushing time. That you hit it. That was one of the most captivating stories, not just in sports but anywhere, of the modern era, right? It really was birthed with social media, right? Like this boom of Twitter and kind of the way that we could not just consume content, but news in our lives and our experiences kind of came up with that team. Nobody's been covered. LeBron took all that shit so that it would never have to happen to anybody else after him, because it really hasn't to that degree. I mean, let's not forget, and I say this a lot, the fans in Cleveland threw batteries at him, and they put his face on urinals, and the media mostly were behind those people, right? That's not the case anymore. And that all happened with Chris Bosh publicly crying in a locker room after a regular season loss, right? It's Dwayne getting frustrated. It's Dwayne and Spo exploding against each other on the sideline in an Indiana series that looked like everything was over, right? And the idea of super teams does not exist if they don't win. When they're down in Boston and they're the blue, as Dan Le Batard says all the time, blueprint on the line, those guys deliver. And I don't know, it's just, Ron, like you have covered them extensively, and it's as fascinating an experience ever. And it's like, how did you feel like retroactively experiencing this over 10 years later with one of the principals?
It's that the best part about that team, and I told Chris this, the best part about that team is every year you thought they could lose.
Yeah.
That's what even makes them different than like the Warriors or maybe the 90s Bulls, is they're not as great as those teams, but they're more interesting because you're like, oh man, they might really lose. And that was really cool. I want to see if I can find this. Sorry, I'm awkwardly like typing with one hand here.
No, you're good.
You
gotta get you a mic stand.
You mentioned I do need to get a mic stand. I'm pretty sure SI has like sent me one and I totally lost it.
EP will send you.
I need to find a Wade interview that I did for Jimmy Butler, because
that one was good. That Jimmy story.
Because there's a long story in there that he tells me about Spo that I don't think
that Dwayne tells you about Spo or Jimmy?
Yes, that Dwayne tells me about Spo, and it has to do with their relationship, and I'm not gonna be able to find it right now, but I'll try to find it for you guys. But it was a really cool quote about how him and Spo grew together and how they kind of had to go through that experience, and how much their relationship changed over the years.
You told that on this pod.
Unfortunately, didn't make it into the story. But yeah, man, that team in general, it was so. As a fan, you wish they won more, but it almost was more entertaining because they didn't. It was more entertaining because of the hatred, because of the ups and downs, because of all the times they were down 3-2, because of all the times it looked like Indiana was going to win.
Think of the opponents, Rohan. It's Cowtown, Indiana. It's a very white city in Boston, right? It's just the Spurs, who are this traditional homegrown team. It's the Mavs, homegrown.
As I told Chris Bosh, anytime the Heat were playing somebody in the playoffs, it was like no other team had ever signed a free agent before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it
was really
like legit. But that kind of that cultural clash between Pacer fans and Heat fans and Celtic fans, and just like the way that that shit creates interest in the league.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why it was fun. I hated those people. I fucking hated all of them. I hated all those dumbass Pacer fans with those dumbass yellow shirts. I hated everybody. I hated them. I was a fan. I was like, fuck these people. I don't like them.
Who I really like though? Frank Vogel. I actually really like Frank Vogel. I've been in LA for a couple years, and when I interviewed
We
Frank
lost him,
Vogel for
Tiff. We lost him.
Yeah.
well, when I interviewed, this is why I like Frank Vogel. I interviewed him for my Anthony Davis story.
Does he know that
And
he
I
looks like Joe Gatto from the Impractical Jokers?
He does. Oh
Yeah,
my
that's so when I was interviewing Frank Vogel, I was like, "Yeah, man, like I've been a Heat fan. You've really been a pain in my ass for so long now." And he's like, "What are you talking about? The Heat always won." And I was like, "Oh, that's nice." And so after the Anthony Davis, interview, I'm like, "You mind if I ask you some Heat Pacers questions?" And we're talking about the series, and it's so cool, like hearing him talk about it, because now he's obviously coaching LeBron, but he was like that year it went to a game 7, which I think was 2013 was the year it went
Both
to a
of
game
them,
7.
two went to a game 7. 2020, the last two went to game 7, I think.
Oh, really? 2014 went to a game
Did it?
7
I don't
also?
remember. No, I don't.
I think that one they won in 6 because the Pacers had home court.
Yeah, they blew him out. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he was like, yeah, that year it went to a game 7. He's like, I really thought we'd found something. I thought we were going to beat them and come out and beat us in that game. And he told me another thing, which was cool that he thinks this way. I respected this. And he was like, let me leave you with this. He's like, in 2015, if Paul George doesn't get hurt and we re-sign Lance Stevenson, he's like, we make it to the finals that year. And I was like, ooh, spicy take. Then I think about it. I'm like, Cleveland was gettable that first LeBron year.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And the Pacers were really good. I mean, Lance that year like had all those triple doubles in Charlotte.
Yeah.
PG didn't even play. I know it's funny.
That was the broken leg year?
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
And he was like, I think we even win the finals. And I was like, ooh, like Hibbert against the Warriors would have been interesting. And he's like, the Warriors won that year? And I was like, yeah. He's like, okay, we probably don't win the finals. But
we make it. We make it.
Yeah.
We get there. We get there.
So I was like, okay, man, Frank, you're a cool dude in my book.
It's real quick, Rohan, on the Dwayne thing. You interviewed him about the cube. There's one thing I want to say. He calls you Ro. You're like that with him?
Okay, he either calls me Ro because we're like that, or because he doesn't know how to say Ro, and I don't know which one it is.
I think it's because you're boys. He even says in the article, this article felt more of a flex for you than an interview of Dwayne Wade.
It was a little self-serving. I'm not gonna lie. It was a little
like
self-serving.
I was like, Jesus, SI publicist is like sounds like some shit you put on your blog. Like it's just, man, look how cool I am. D Wade calls me Ro. He's complimenting you, and you're just like, thanks.
Okay, I wasn't just like thanks. I was like, thank you so much.
I mean,
I'm showing this to my mom.
Thank you so much.
I don't think I played it cool.
No, it's not. Yeah, it just that was my main takeaway.
Listen, he's awesome. I watched the Cube while I was at home, and it's crazy to just like. I did tell Dwayne this that it's been really cool. I think to watch him in this part of his life, just like using his platform in an awesome way, like enjoying himself. Like I'm just glad he's having fun. I told him, I was like, I'm glad you're not like out here boxing people.
Right.
He just is like living a very full post NBA life in a way that feels like authentic to him. And I told him like it would have been so easy for him to embarrass himself on TNT, embarrass himself on this show. Like he could have just not been doing too much. And it doesn't feel like he's trying to hang on. It just feels like he's having fun. And I think that's really cool.
Did he? Did anything get cut out of that about that interview? Like, did he talk about like kind of being a father in this age, especially after COVID and everything that's going on with his daughter? He's so wonderfully supportive of her in a way that what I think is always interesting is that he leaves Instagram comments on for those things, which I'm like, man, he's inviting a lot, but I mean, he's like not scared of it, and he's being loving and supporting to his wonderful daughter. Did he talk about that? And did that get cut out or?
I didn't talk. I asked about it once before. I think it was ahead of his jersey retirement. I remember being like, "Are you scared?" Because I think a lot of people in his position, they're afraid to say the wrong thing. Yeah. And what I'm really impressed about, him and Gabrielle Union are that they're not afraid to speak about these things. And I remember asking him that once, like, what's that experience like? Because like you said, it's drawing responses. Like people who have like no business talking about other people's families, like get really, really fucking weird about it. And he just was like, yeah, like it is scary, but you just do your best to educate yourself. You do your best to talk to people who know what they're talking about. And I think that's what's been really like what really makes them a great example about why it's not hard to like talk about trans rights or talk about this like marginalized group of people. Like, I think people get scared about it, right? Because they're not exposed to, this group of people often, and they don't know what they're going through, and they're like, this is so far removed from my life. Like, I don't even want to go near this like topic, etc. And he's like, no, like you learn. All you can do is put yourself in a position to learn. And I think that's what's been really cool is like he was on that I Am Athlete podcast and he like knocked it out of the park. And you can see like people's minds changing in real time on that
Is
show.
that the football one with
is.
Brandon Marshall where he's angrily yelling at people?
Yeah.
It really is. But I honestly, the discussion they have about like being a father on that show is genuinely moving. And if you're listening to this and you haven't listened to that yet and you really want to see Dwayne Wade like get into it, and him talking about like, my wife and I were like had this conversation years ago, like what if, and I had a moment where I was like, I looked in the mirror and I'm paraphrasing, but he was like, I can either make this about me or make this about my kids. It's genuinely moving. It was really moving. And I think that I told him, I was like, I'm a bigger fan of you now than I was during your playing career.
I feel the same.
The way what you're doing right now is so cool. So it's been awesome to see him like just be an authentic version of himself in this phase of his life. And it's fun for me interviewing him. Like he's loose. Like, you know what I mean? Like
your friends calling you Ro.
Ro.
I don't even call you Ro.
Listen, again, I don't know if it's a term of affection or he's never said the word
If
Rohan
he
before,
sees
but
you
either
in
way, I'll
public
take it.
in a non-COVID pandemic, is he? Are you guys having like a like a little hug or like how is this going?
Okay, so
You're at
when I
Nobu.
interviewed him-
You walk into Nobu and Dwayne is trying to get a table. You say, what do you say? Hey D, and you guys dap. Like, how does this go?
I think okay. I'll give you two examples, real world examples. So I interviewed him for my SI stories last year, and the next day I was at Heat practice, doing some interviews for the story. He saw me and gave me a fist bump. Okay, that was pretty cool. But then it was like, I just saw him the day before. It would be weird if he forgot me.
Right.
One time he was at a Lakers game, and it was the first year post-retirement, and he was on the floor, and I went up and said hi to him, and he was pretty cool about it. But it was like a lot of people were saying hi to him. So I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe we'll bump into each other in LA one day, and I can report back what it would go like. But the thing is, usually when I'm interviewing him, he's been prepared to know.
Would he be nicer to you or George Sedano?
Probably Sedano.
Really? I think you.
Sedano's got years in the game, man.
I gotta ask George if Dwayne knows who he is. I feel like Dwayne knows you.
I think so.
I don't know. I gotta check.
So.
I got Illinois' finest, Tiff. Right? You and Dwayne.
That's right. I say it all the time.
By the way, shout out to George Sedano. What a hardworking.
I love
nice
that
man.
dude. That dude
who takes way too much shit from Heat Twitter.
Oh, but he leans into it for us. He's doing
does.
this for the
He
good.
does.
He's doing it for the good of Heat Twitter.
He's a good heel. He's a good heel.
Let me tell you something. That guy does not. When we were nobody, I mean, we're still nobody, but when we were like really nobody, and he would come on our pod, no questions asked, engages all our stupid jokes, and bro, this is built on stupid jokes.
It really is.
And
it really is.
he would come on.
R.I.P. Bumpy Johnson.
R.I.P. He would come on and engage in all that. He would fill in for Dan, and he'd talk about Lefty Leif and Alf and all, like on the radio. He went on ESPN one day and said, "My friend used to say magical QB world." Shout out to Spoon. He's just a good guy who always made time for people that he knew were working hard and wanted. Like, I don't know. I love and respect him so much. I mean, he is genuinely
Sedano fan. Absolutely
a
very
great
cool guy.
person, even though he relentlessly makes fun of me. Unlike you, Ro, you cool, dude. You and me, baby.
What a earnest turn for this end of the spot. I'm loving it.
Yeah.
I'm loving
No,
it.
I've been emotional this season, Ron. Everybody makes fun of me. They ask me if I'm gonna cry or whatever.
It's been a long
been
year.
weird.
It's been a long year. I think the Heat are better off having their season ended when it did. To be perfectly honest.
Maybe to you, we lost a lot of money. I mean, that's a lot of content.
I'm sorry about how much money you guys.
I mean, these motherfuckers really. If you run a couple more dribble handoffs to Lopez and drop, maybe, we'd be doing shows right now and, we'd have a couple hundred viewers. So,
Damn it, G.
Ro, I love and appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much for making an extended amount of time for us.
Listen, no, anytime. Thank you guys for always like supporting my work. It means so much to me. I mean this from my heart. Like, anytime I'm writing like anything about the Heat, I try not to go over the top with how much I write about them. But like, all I care about is that Heat fans enjoy that work and are able to get something out of it. And you guys are always supporting me anytime I write stories like that. And it's awesome, man. It's a lot of fun. So I appreciate you guys, truly.
Check out Rohan on Twitter, all his work at SI, the podcast, everything you do for basketball is great. And thank you so much. Remember to check out our Pride merch, shop.miamiheatbeat.com. I'm going to throw it. We have a special thing coming. It's next Tuesday, right, Tiff?
Tuesday.
We have a special guest for a big Pride celebration, giveaways, slander, you name it. A Heat Beat favorite, really a pillar of Miami sports is coming on to celebrate with us and to do giveaways, and we're gonna do a lot of cool stuff. So make sure you check us out next Tuesday, Hangover Time, following whatever game.
I'm excited. Shit.
Oh, it's gonna be fun, Ron.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tiff has really spearheaded a lot of what we've been doing this month, and it's gone incredible. Brian, shout out to designing the shirts. Too much dismay and a lot of back and forth emails, but my guy came through, brother. And we're gonna be in Locker Room tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Tiff and I, because we didn't get to it, I'm gonna talk about why Julius Randle's a fucking fraud.